theyeshiva.net.
Yeah, tomorrow I'm away, so tomorrow there's no shir. We're going to resume on Thursday because I don't want to fall behind, so we're going to do a shir on Friday. Beis Hashem bli neder. And if there's ever a day you can't come, all the shiurim are archived and live on the yeshiva.net, so you can always watch afterwards or simultaneously wherever you are, in the car, or wherever you are at home, or if you're traveling somewhere. And there's also the source sheets. They put every day the piece of Gemarah that we learn, or whatever else we're learning, so you have that also right there on the website. I hope the days that we don't have a shiur, everybody could chazah the Gemarah, because the truth is, one of the challenges of learning is people learn, they like it, but nothing stays. Or very, very little stays. And the reason is because there's no chazara. Gemarah is hard. Everything is hard. You have to learn chazah. As much as you chazah, there's always more to learn. So b'meila, when you have days off, I think it's an opportunity for everybody to chazah. And you'll see, chazara is a very geschmacka thing. In fact, I would say that the definition of learning the first time is not really learning. It's just by learning the first time, the second time is not the first time. That's the mile of learning the Gemarah the first time. That's what I think is the truth. We're up to Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. So after a blot and a half, Daf Beis Amud Aleph, Daf Beis Amud Beis, and the first half of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, that the Gemarah struggled with the definition of Oir. What does Oir L'Arba Asar? Boitkin as Chametz L'Oir Haner mean? What does Oir mean? With the two opinions of Rabbi Yehuda, who said night, and Rabbi Huna, who said light, day. And the Gemarah thought that each of them meant literally that you do B'dikas Chametz either the night of Arba Asar, or according to Rabbi Huna, the morning of Arba Asar. And the Gemarah struggled, bringing 14 sources where it says Oir, and seeing that Oir either clearly means day, or that Oir clearly means night, and even a 15th source where it says Oira. And Rabbi Isaac texted me after the Shia yesterday that Oira b'mispar katan is also 14. Rabbi Isaac Neworth. Okay. Oira is also 14. I didn't check it, right? Aleph is 1, Vav is 6, that's 7. Reish is 2, so that's 9. And Hey is 5. Very good. Wow, 14. I trusted you. I didn't even do the cheshbon. You see, I said it before I did the cheshbon. The mispar katan, everything has mispar katan, mispar gadol. So even the 15th is Eich Yudalad, is Eich 14. Thank you for that honor, Givaldi Ka'ara. But it's interesting that there's 14 sources for Oir when we're trying to figure out what to do on the day or the night of 14. The Gemarah finally concluded that there's no way of escaping the conclusion that Oir L'Arba Asar does not mean the morning of Arba Asar, it means the night of Arba Asar. And that's when you have to do B'dikas Chametz. There's simply no way of escaping it. Not only because there's no raya from Chumash or Nevi'im or Ksuvim otherwise, where you're forced to say Oir's day. And not only because there are many Mishnahs and Brises where clearly Oir is night, because as we said, nothing of this would be a conclusive raya that would refute any other position. It would only mean, it could mean night, or even it's often night, but it doesn't mean it's for sure night. But finally, the last Brisa that was taught the Beis Shmuel in the yeshiva of Shmuel. Shmuel himself was an Amoira, but the Brisa was taught in the yeshiva of Shmuel. That's where they taught it, they transmitted it, they wrote it up, they explained it, they taught it. Over there it says clearly the lashon of our Mishnah with the word Leile Arba Asar Boitkin as a Chametz. Obviously, to come and say that there's a machloikas between the Brisa and the Mishnah, that the Mishnah says Dikas Chametz in the morning, the Brisa says at night, that would be just stam stretching it for no reason, illogically. To say Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, that I don't mind. The Brisa that said, the Mishnah said for Rabbi Yehuda says to be Boidik Oyer, Rabbi Yehuda holds. It says Rabbi Yehuda, that means it's a Shittas Yachid. So that I have no problem to say that our Mishnah is not Rabbi Yehuda. But when the Brisa says exactly the same words, to say now make a new machloikas, just to be able to say that Oyer is day, this you don't do. There's no svara to it. There's no logic to it. It's tam making a machloikas for the sake of making a machloikas, which some people like to do, but it's certainly not what Judaism believes in. And it's not logical. It's not al pisech. So therefore we have to conclude that Oir means night, and this doesn't mean Reb Huna made a mistake, it means we made a mistake. Reb Huna also meant night. There's no need now to say Reb Huna made a mistake. There's no need to do that. Just like the Mishnah uses the word Oir and it means night, Reb Huna used the word Nigi and he meant night, because in the Asrei, in the region of Reb Huna, Nigi was the euphemism, that's how they define night. Just like the Mishnah calls it Oir. And Adayoim today, when people write a letter at night, they'll often write, right? Oir, Oir l'Rish Chodesh Kislev, Oir l'Hei Kislev, Oir l'Vav Kislev, which means the light of Vav Kislev, which means the night, based on this Mishnah. It's an expression, that's how we call night. Oir. So Reb Huna, in his plays, said Nigi, and Nigi was an expression for Oir, and Reb Yehuda called it Leili, and therefore there was never a machlokes between. It was two Amirayim, Reb Huna and Reb Yehuda, who were both students of Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel are the first generation of Amirayim. Reb Huna and Reb Yehuda are the second generation of Amirayim, who were students of Rav and Shmuel. Reb Huna was the successor of Rav, who was the Rosh Hashiva of Surah, and Rabbi Yehuda was the successor of Shmuel, who was the Rosh Hashiva of Pumbedisa. These were the two biggest yeshivas in Bavel. The yeshiva of Pumbedisa lasted more than 800 years. I don't know if there's a yeshiva in history that lasted for so long. Imagine the deficit. A yeshiva for 5 years has a problem. The yeshiva in Pumbedisa lasted for more than 8 centuries, 800 years, ad kedei kach, until the light of Judaism in Bavel came to close to not to an end, but close to at least that light came close to an end, or at least was dimmed, and the yeshiva moved on. But this was Rabbi Huna and Rabbi Yehuda, contemporaries who lived in the 3rd century, in the 200s, and they had 2 regions in Bavel, and he called it Leila, he called it Nigi. So Rabbi Michal Aaron asked yesterday a Gavaldik Shaila. You remember your Shaila? What did we have to deal with this for a week? Just bring this Braisa, the first one, and you're done. You ask a question, Mayor, Toshma, the Braisa from Shmuel. Suddenly, after 14 sources, whoa, I just remembered. Till this point, they forgot. Suddenly, they remembered. How do you understand this? Just started right in the beginning, and you're done. And all the Rosh Hashivas, who when they start a Masechta, they want to start right away with Gedichte Shiurim, never liked Daf Beis and Daf Gimel of Masechta Pesachim. Because it's a different type of Gemarah, Psukim ahen, Psukim ahen, and you have to know Tanakh, and very few people learn Tanakh. It's not conducive. I spoke to Rosh Hashiva a few nights ago, and he told me that he skips it. I didn't understand it. He told me he skips it. I said, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, fine, that's one way of dealing with everything, right? You just skip it. It doesn't exist. Huh? Yeah. Okay. The emphasis is Soidus Amukim, and every line here is Alpi Nigla, Alpi Pshat, Alpi Remes, Alpi Drush, Alpi Sod, Alpi Nistan. Huh?
You don't want to face his father, mother.
So you could, so there's some who say, I think one of the Rishonim, maybe the Maram Chalva, some who say that in different places they brought different brises and different mishnahs, and the Masad and Hagemara put it all together. Meaning, it wasn't necessarily in one place where this discussion happened. It happened, could be in many places. This is how they answer the question why after the first mishnah, where it says Oir is Urta from Rabbi Yehuda, the Gemara still continues to go on. But Rabbeinu David gives, I think, a Balabatish answer that I kept on saying that that's not a conclusive proof. But I would add something else, which is, I think, a fundamental idea. That this discussion itself is a tremendous lesson in learning. And not just in learning, in an approach to life. And that is, we often look for the maskana, for the conclusion. And we don't give enough credit to the struggle to get there, to the journey to get there, to work it through. The fact is, of course, we could have brought the Beis in the beginning, and would not have had a question. But there's a value in the fact of let's work it through. Let's go through all the sources. Let's see what oid is here, oid there, oid there. And that itself, when you come to the final Beis that gives a conclusion, it's not like it was all for waste. On the contrary, all of that gives a person a certain profundity and a depth and a truth and a knowledge, because the journey is also the destination. It's not that we're only looking to know conclusively what the word oid is. We want to be able to work through the process. What does mean aliba de emes, and go through all the sources? Even though we could have brought the Beis and concluded, or to put it in a little bit in different words, the journey to light, the journey to must go through darkness. Pun intended. The journey to goes through Laila. The journey to light goes through a proof from here. No, it's not a proof. A proof from here. No, it's not a proof. That itself, that's how Torah is learned. Torah is not just learned. Give me the conclusion. You go through the process, you go through the question, and each question makes you wiser. And each refutation makes you wiser and deeper. So that the oir that you come to at the end is a much deeper oir. Because it goes through that process of Laila. It goes through that process of Laila. I'll give an example. And this is an example in life. It says in Zohar, V'Avram Zaken Baba Yomim. It doesn't say so. It says in Chumash, V'Avram Zaken Baba Yomim. In Parshas Chayesar. What does it mean, Baba Yomim? Literally, Avram became old. He came in his days. The Zohar says Baba Yomim means he came with all his days. Ba Yomim, ba not in, with. Ba. A Beis could be with, not only in. Baba Yomim, he came mit alateg, with all of his days. As the Zohar says, Lo chaser yoyim echada, lo chaser levush echada. He wasn't missing one day, he wasn't missing one garment. Sometimes a person looks at a few years of their life and they say, a waste of time, scratch it out of my resume. You look at a day and you say, this was a real waste of time, you could send it to the dustbin. Avram Zaken Babayam, he came with all of his days. Every day he could look back and say, Hayoim Yoim, it's a given a tog. The tog is given a tog. The day was a day. The day is a day. It was a well-lived day, a fully lived day. That's what the Zohar says.
And he had rough days.
And he had rough days. Stellt sich the Shaila.
What does it mean with levush, with all levush?
In other words, the Zohar says that every day there's things to do that day, mitzvahs of that day, which gives the neshama the levushim that it needs, the uniform it needs, the levushim, the garments it needs, the relationships it needs. So I heard this myself from the Lubavitcher Rabbi. It was Parshas Vayera, I think, Memches, 87 or 88. He asked a question. He said, the Rambam brings from Medrash, Ben Memches Shana, Hikir Avram es Boirei. The first 48 years of his life, he was steeped in idolatry. The Ravid brings, Ben Shalosh Shanim Hikir Avram es Boirei. But the first 3 years, steeped in idolatry. Another gear says, Ben Arboim Shanim Hikir Avram es Boirei. Whether 40 or 48 or even 3, you can't say he came with all of his days. There were days and decades and years when he was steeped in Terecht's idolatry. What the Baba Yamim over there? There's no Baba Yamim over there. Those days you have to reject. So he answered, he said, that's a mistake. The search for truth is also true. Avraham Avinu didn't discover truth right away, but he searched for truth. And the search for truth is part of truth. In other words, when I'm genuinely looking for truth, I may find wrong things and I may embrace them because I think this is the way to go. And then I'll say, no, this was a mistake. That mistake is only a mistake when I look at it in and of itself. When I realize that that mistake was inevitable to bring me to where I am today, the mistake becomes part of your truth. In life, we can't see everything immediately. It doesn't work that way. You make mistakes, there's trial and error, there's setbacks. But if every setback is part of your journey towards emes, towards pnimiyus, towards authenticity, then that itself has a music in and of itself. It's a journey in and of itself. That's what the Gemarah is teaching us here. I'm not just looking for the final conclusion. I'm going to prove and I'm going to reject every proof. And I'm not, it's not a proof. It's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. Because it teaches me so much about life. I think that's a perspective that may be helpful in this process.
That would be a reason why I didn't start with Leil in the Mishnah.
Huh?
That's why I didn't start with Leil in the Mishnah.
Why?
You have to struggle through what our means.
Oh, so now we come to the big question. This is all very nice. Once the Mishnah said Oir, and we have to figure out what Oir means. But the Talmud could have avoided all the problems, so we don't have to deal with it. You don't have to deal with the question. That's the next thing. Frag the Gemarah, Dav Gimel Amar Aleph, in the middle of the page. Right? The Tana Didon. The line starts. Loi pligi marki asri basri der Rabbeinu karu niki basri der Rabbeinu Yehuda karu leila. Frag the Gemarah, v'tana didon, if this is true, our Tana, my time electani leila. Why didn't he just use the word leile? Could have said leile arba asar, boitkin asachametz loiranet. What would be the advantage? The advantage would be you would save us a blot and a half of Gemarah. The search is needed if you don't know what it means. If you know what it means, you don't need to search. Just like Shmuel. In the Yeshiva of Shmuel, he understood not to say but to say leile. Why? Why did the Beis write leile? Pashat, because they knew the Mishnah is confusing. They didn't want to confuse people. So the Mishnah itself could have written the language in a clear way in a Lashon Brura, like in the Beis Medrash of Shmuel. Now let's clarify something that the Ran clarifies in Chidushei Aran. He says, I don't understand. Why don't you ask that question on all the Mishnahs and Brises that you learned before that says Oir, Hamapeles, Oir l'shmoinim ve'echad. Why didn't she say Hamapeles if she miscarries? Leil shmoinim ve'echad. Ask it on all of them. Masi and Masuyas, you light torches, la'oiri buray. Shlomim, you don't eat Oir l'shlishi. So the Chidushei Aran brings out, he says, in those places, I don't have a problem, because it's a Lashon Brura. In those places, it's clear that Oir means night. When it says Oir of Yom Kippur, you daven Shemon Esrei with 7 blessings, and the morning again, obviously Oir means the night of Yom Kippur, not the day of Yom Kippur. I don't care that, and we have nothing against the word Oir. You want to use the word Oir, use the word Oir. It's a Lashon Brura. But since in our Mishnah, it's obviously confusing, because I don't know what B'dikas Chametz is. B'dikas Chametz could be the night, but maybe B'dikas Chametz is the morning. I don't know. It's not clear from the Mishnah itself when it is. V'haraya, Reb Huna argued, and we thought Reb Huna meant it literally because the Mishnah is unclear. So here the Gemarah says, why would the Tana keep us in the dark? Again, pun intended. Why would the Tana keep us in the dark and use the word Oid instead of Leile, which is clear? This is what the Chidushei Aran is Monsey. And for the Gemarah, quite an interesting answer. Lishna ma'alya hu denokat. The Mishnah, the Tana, is choosing what we call a Lishna Ma'alya. Lishna Ma'alya means a refined language. Is that how they translate? Refined? Really? Well, okay. Baruch Shekivanti. Lishna Ma'alya. Ma'alya means good, fine, developed, sophisticated. A higher type of language, from the word Ma'alya. Refined. Edele, if Yiddish you would say, a edele sprach. The Tana wanted to use an edele sprach.
That causes us to misunderstand.
Which causes us to misunderstand.
Right, so why then it shouldn't be
Okay. Huh? Was?
It says why should call it this? Beis to have a whole lot of money, even
yeah, point to that.
Yeah.
So why would they?
Okay, so we'll see. Okay, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and this is based on a teaching of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was a Yid who lived in Eretz Yisrael, Rosh Yeshiva of Lud, and then Tveria, and he's the first generation of Amirayim. He's the transition from Tanoim and Amirayim. He was still by Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, and he's mentioned even in Mishnayos and Pirkei Avos. Amr Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi b'chol yoyim v'yoyim baskel yoitzis, the last mission of Uktzin. Yeshua ben Levi, he says every tzaddik is going to have 310 worlds. He was the last generation of Tanoim, the first generation of Amirayim. He lived in Eretz Yisrael, that's why he's called Rabbi. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Amr Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, lo olam al yoitzi adam davar meguna mipiv. A person should never ever emit from his mouth a davar meguna, which means shameful language. How does he translate davar meguna? Coarse language. Grubbe, a grubbe language, which is a disgrace, which is a shanda, meguna. It's disgusting, it's not edel. A person should not emit such language from his mouth. What's his proof? Shari, fascinating. Shari ikim hakos of shmoina oisis. V'loy hoitzi davar meguna mipit. You see that the Torah is ready to be, ike means crooked, yeah? What is it? Shari ikim hakos of? The pasuk deviates and adds 8 letters in order not to emit coarse language, in order not to write coarse language. Shenemar. It says by Noach, Parshas Noach, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Ches. The Pasuk says, I'm going to open up a Parshas Noach. When Hashem tells Noach to take into the Teva all of the animals, they should be able to survive the flood. So what does he want? He wants that he should take from kosher animals, he should take 7 couples. right? A male and a female. And from non-kosher animals, you should take one couple. 2, a male and a female. So the way the Pasuk says it is, in Perek Zayin, Pasuk Ches, the Pasuk before says, Noach and his children and his wife and the wives of his children came in with him to the ark because of the waters of the Mabel. And Pasuk Ches, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Ches, Genesis 7:8, Min ha-behema ha-tahira, umin ha-behema asher einena tahira. From the behema that is tahir, that is pure, and from the animals, each animal that was not pure, umin ha-oif, and all of the birds and all of the insects, 2 of them, 2 of each species came into the teva. Frek Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, what do you have to say? Min ha-behema ha-tahira, umin ha-behema asher einena tahira. Now let's count that. Asher einena tahira. You could have written min ha-behema hatmeya. Hatmeya is 5 letters. Hey, tes, mem, aleph, hey. Umin ha-behema hatmeya. And from the non-tmeya means from the tomedik animal, which means a non-kosher animal. Instead, the Torah says asher einena tahira. How much asher einena tahira? Asher is 1, 2, 3. Einena is another 5. So that's 5 and 3 is 8. Tahira is another 4, or it seems like it's 5.
Maybe it's Tameya. Maybe it's Tameya, not Tameya.
But the what I mean, ha-behema hatmeya. So the Chizkuni already is ma'oyer that it seems like by the Chazal they had a vav here. Sometimes because of the Torah, everything was manuscripts copied from another Torah. There are little discrepancies, and it's possible that here they had an extra vav tahira, which is called male, not chaser. So you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13, right? Asher, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you put in a vav into tahira, you have 13. It could have said hatmeya, which would have given you 5. Instead, you're giving me 13. That means the Torah deviates and adds 8 letters which are unnecessary. They're superfluous. That's why it's ikem. Ikem literally means a deviation. It's crooked. The Torah is shreifnish glatt. You could have said nabeim atmeya, which is straight, simple, and mainly brief. Instead, you give me a more crooked way of getting to the same conclusion by saying a behema instead of saying it's tameh. It's not tar. And as a result of that, you have to add 8 letters because it's 13 instead of 5, right? So if it would have been hatmei, it would have been 5. Now you're giving me 13. If you would take off 5 from those 13, you end up with 8. So Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi proves Ikem akosov shmeinaisus lohitzidov megunim et piv shenemar min habehema tahiru min habehema asher einena tahir.
And Shemini we do say. In Shemini you
To Shaila, how many times?
many times.
So that good to Shaila noch more than 100 times in Torah you have the word tameh. More than 100 times. Shobah Levi finds in Parshas Noach. You're right. The whole Parshas Shmini, tameh.
The same
Parshas Re'ei, Parshas Tazriya, Parshas Mitzar. In fact, the Gemarah in the next Amid, at the end of the Sukkah is going to ask, doesn't it say tameh in Torah? But that itself is a question, because the Gemarah will now go through a bunch of questions, and the biggest question it ignores. This is the biggest question. Good, it's a good to Shaila.
When you're talking about the essence of Torah, you have to know what's called Torah. You don't know. You're not talking about the Torah.
You're saying here it's a story, there it's a halacha. Okay, beautiful. You're saying here it's a story about the teva, there it's a halacha. A ha'ara I want to make to you. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, "Min habehema she'einena tahira." Perek Zayin Pasuk Ches. Could you take a look at Perek Zayin Pasuk Beis? Perek Zayin Pasuk Beis. Take a look. Hashem tells Noach, "Come to the teva." From every kosher animal, take 7 couples, a male and a female, a man and a wife, so to speak. Umin habehema asher loy tahirehi. Shnayim ishvi ishtoi. What does Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi take me to Pasuk Ches? Forgot about Pasuk Beis? Same problem. Could have said, Umina behema, hatmeya, shnayim ishvi ishtoi. In fact, what does he put here? Asher loy tahira he. Asher loy tahira he. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you put an avav again, it's 13. Zal bezach, zal betayra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? It's not a nena, it's loy. So you would say he goes to a nena because that gives him a bigger raya. But here you have he. So you have an extra 3 letters that make up the difference between loy and a nena. And it's also tahira without a vav. So if you put him tahira with the vav, you have 13. You have your same tahira you could have said on Pasuk Beis. Why did he skip the Pasuk Ches? No, you can't say Umina behema hatmeya he. Wouldn't make sense. The he only comes in because he says Ashallah Umina behema Ashallah tahira he mela. You want to know B'chlal why it has to say the word he? Could have said Umina behema Ashallah tahira. So it's a good shaila. It's a good shaila. But if it would say hatmeya, it certainly couldn't say he. Wouldn't make sense. Umina behema hatmeya he. Umina behema hatmeya shnayim ishvi yishta. Here you also have 8 oisius. Umina behema hatmeya. Could have said na behema hatmeya instead. Said Asher loy tahira he.
Before he says out the word.
What?
Over here you have the 8 oisius before he says out. Before you change it, he says change it the 8 oisius.
What's meinst du?
It says that the
Before
letters
he
are
said
before, it's not after.
Maya, you change it. You shouldn't say out this word. You should know that.
And here he also doesn't say out the word.
He is after this word.
But even Asher, loy tahira. The can't enter in that the second pasuk is pasuk more. So it's a raya that 8 oisius, right? The first pasuk is not 8. The more oisius the Torah deviates, the bigger the raya, because Torah is ready to, so to speak, make such an ikum, such a deviation. But I'm saying you have the same number. Okay, keep it in your mind.
Isn't also Isha a little funny when it talks about animals?
Yeah, but for that you have to wait for a shir on Parshas Noach. It's a good shaila. Why you call a husband and a wife animals, yeah? That's a shaila? Or did I just answer your question? But I'm happy that you have the question, that you don't understand it. Baruch Hashem, it's a good sign. Some people, unfortunately, don't have this question. Yeah. Yeah. They say there was once a Yid, and he wanted to rent a house in Borough Park. But the condition was that the person was ready to rent out 1 floor, the top floor, but with the condition that it's a family, he wrote a sign, unkinder, without children, because he wants to go to sleep at night, and he doesn't want a hummel tummel upstairs. So the guy says, yeah, chabrish kein kinder. And he rents out the place, and that night, this fellow goes to sleep early, and suddenly he hears a kafas upstairs, for hours, man, they're dancing and jumping, mashpring, mahak, tables, couches, fighting, screaming. He runs up, he sees 14 children. Kanayin Harif, Kain Yirbu. A family of 40 parents, of course, are not home, and they're lebedik. So he waits for the father to come home. So he waits for the father to come home, and he says, 14, oh, very good. Isaac, Zestos, So, and La Yehudim Hoysa Eire is Purim, 14. La Yehudim Hoysa Eire is said about Purim, which is the 14th day of Adar, Yudalad Adar. Shloshim Mem Fabdikas Chametz, yeah, Zayagit. So the guy comes to the father and he says, why'd you lie to me? We made up a family without kinder. He says, das a kinder, das a chayas. Not children, they're animals. Fine, so that's one perspective. But it's a good trial. Why do we use the word ish v'ishtoi by animals? Rashi also discusses it. I'll call upon him. So Yehuda ben Levi tainas that you see from Torah that you never admit coarse language. Zakt Rashi, let's see Rashi. My time leitani leili. Why doesn't it say leili? Kedetani the Beis Shmuel like we see in the yeshiva of Shmuel? The Beis says leili. Umeshani answers Rashi. The Gemarah answers alishna ma'al yakamahadir. The Tana is searching to speak refined, eloquent language. Shemitzvah, Rashi says, Shemitzvah v'derech nikiyeh hadas. L'saper b'loshen nikiyeh. It's a mitzvah. And it's not only a mitzvah, it's the derech, it's the habit. Sometimes you could have a mitzvah, but it's not a habit. You're told to do it, but it doesn't become part of who you are. So Rashi says it's a mitzvah, and it's a derech, it's the pattern of nikiyeh hadas, of people who have a pure mind. L'saper b'lashon nekiya, to tell stories, to speak in a refined way. Davar meguna. Frek Rashi, lav mishum de leili davar meguna. It's not that the Gemarah thinks that the word night is a davar meguna, is a disgraceful thing. To say night is not a davar meguna, it's night, it's part of life. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi ba'almeit. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi didn't say it in the context of our Mishnah that you shouldn't say a davar meguna. He didn't call Laila davar meguna. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was speaking b'chalal, ba'alm, in the world, that you shouldn't speak in a coarse fashion. Umiyu shamina mineh. But from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi's comment, we learn out loshen chachamim, that the language of the chachamim is lechazer acher loshen tzach v'naki. They're always looking for an expression which is pure, which is crystal clear, which is pure, which is fine. Tzach means klar, but he doesn't only mean here clear as, it shouldn't be confusing, clear as in spiritually clear, it should be clear, it should be zach, it should be edel, it should be beautiful, it should be pure, it should be refined. There's language that elevates people, and there's language that degrades people. There's language that elevates life, and there's language that denigrates life. It's a different type of language. The idea of lashon nekiya, you could say a beautiful thing, but you could say it in a coarse way. And you could say a beautiful thing, and you could say it in a nice way, in a fine way, in an eloquent way. And b'meila, even though Laila is not a lashon meguna, but when you have a choice between Laila and Oir, they use the word Oir. Atkan. So Rashi asher nena tahira, v'loik siv habehema hatmeya ki urchei. What do you need hatmeya? That would be the normal way of saying it. Habehema hatmeya. Hare shmoina oisius ikem. Hatmeya chamish oisius sein. Asher nena tahira shloish esrei oisius. You see Rashi spells tahira with a vav. And that's how the Gemarah spells it. They nena tahira with a vav. That's why it's 13. If not, it would be 12. And Rashi now right away asks here a question, which is l'chayra your question, but you have to understand what he's saying. Right away you should say, it's not like in the whole Torah it doesn't say tummy, it says plenty of times tummy. So Rashi, shani urche bechad duchte, l'lamdach l'chazer achalosh nekiya. In one place, the Torah deviated from the right manner to teach you this lesson, that you should speak refined language. I'll ask, so why doesn't the Torah itself do that? In every other place, the Torah doesn't have a problem with saying tummy. In one place it says, I'm going to say, not Torah to teach you that you should speak Lashon Nekiya. So why does the Torah speak Lashon Nekiya? Rashi doesn't answer that. Rashi says, Torah says Tameh. But one place, Torah changes to teach you L'chazer Lashon Nekiya. Sapela de Kazach. It's like almost you'll tell your child, I do this, but once I'm going to speak the right way. So you should learn to speak the right way. Maybe you should always speak the right way, so I'll learn how to speak the right way. You have to understand what Rashi means here. I'm going to be making a few ha'aris on the sugya. Just a few ha'aris you should think about. And then, of course, we have to understand the kasha that we asked, why it doesn't bring from the previous chapter. Now you'll ask a pashta question. If you look through Mishnayos and Gemarah, it says plenty of times the word Laila. According to this Gemarah, there shouldn't be any Mishnah, any Brisa with the word Laila. Just like here. You took out the word Laila and you put in the word Oir, even though it's confusing. And even though a blot and a half, we're not sure what it means, as we explained above. Why? To teach you Lashon Tzacha, the Chacham always want to speak in the most purified way. So l'cha'ira, every Mishnah should be this way. Every Brisa should be this way. And yet the fact is, you go through the Mishnayos and the Brises, plenty of times, it says the word night, it says the word leil, not only Oir. Take a few places it says Oir. So that the Gemara doesn't address here.
Is there any place where it starts off Masechta?
Oh, very good, very good. I'm going to quote, I'm just quote it. So the Pirush HaMishnayos La Rambam, didn't have a Mishnayos, I copied it, I just want to read you the Lashon of the Rambam. The Pirush HaMishnayos of the Rambam, in the commentary of the Mishnayos to this Mishnah, the Rambam says, B'zeh HaLashon, he says, Nikra Laila Oir kama shekorin dvarim harbe b'havcha. In this Mishnah, Laila is called Oir, because, like many things, their name is the opposite. Like we call a blind person Sagi Nahar, we call night light, even though night is not light. We do the opposite. V'kivan bazeh kadei l'daber b'lishna malya. He did it to speak in refined language. V'loi tia psichas hasefer b'shem heder min ha'hederim ritzoyni loim alayla. The opening of the Masechta shouldn't be with a word which represents absence, which represents darkness, meaning Laila, night, and that's why, because it's the opening of the Sefer, he uses the word Oir. If you look in other Rishonim, the Baal HaMayer and Rabbeinu David and Tosfos Harash, they bring on this the Pesachim Tehillim and Kuf Yotes. David HaMelech says, Pesach Dvarecha Yair. The opening of your words should be bright, should be filled with light. Pesach Dvarecha, the Pesach, the door of your words, the way you enter into your words, the way you open your presentation should always be Yair. It should be shining, it should be light. So since David HaMelech says Pesach Dvarecha Yair, and they had to open a Masechta, literally the first word. So what should be the first word? What should be the psicha? The psicha should be with light, and not with Laila, even though, as Rashi said, Laila is not a Lashon Meguna. That's how most Rishonim explain it, with this idea of Pesach Dvarecha Yair, open up your words with Oir, even though Laila is not a bad word or a negative word, it's part of the Bria. In fact, in our brachas of Ma'ariv we say it, the Chazal instituted it, Umavir Yoim, Umevi Loila, Umavdil Ben Yoim. Okay, gewaldig. Okay, we're on a roll. Dai is also 14. Aber es ist doch ad blidai, it's not even ad blidai. Und dann nach Pesach sagt man nach Dayenu, that's why you say Dayenu, which is also Dai. I'll call upon him. So B'meila, it starts off with that. I should add, just there's a very interesting Ravid, Sagas Ravid on the Iran, and he says that it's not Stam because of Lishna Ma'alya. He says a little more than this. He says it's Negei Lahalocha. This is what the Ravid says. That if it would have just been for Pesach Dvarecha Yori, they wouldn't have started with Ur, they would have started with Laila. But this is Negei Lahalocha, and that is, B'dikas Chametz has to be at night of Arbasa. But when at night? When at night? The reason the Mishnah says Ur is to indicate that it has to be the first thing by Tzeisak Echavim when it's still, the Ur has not completely disappeared. That's the Chiddush. Ur L'Arba Asar means it's taka the night of Arbasa. But I'm using the word Ur, it should be the time of night when there's still the last glimmers of Ur are left. You can't compare the darkness of Bein Hashmashas of the beginning of Tzeisak Echavim to a half an hour later, 2 hours later. Because Chametz shouldn't be done 11 o'clock at night. It should be done right by Tzeisak Echavim when there's still the last remnants of Ur left over, whichever shitta you learn about Shchi and Bein Hashmashas, but there's still, whether it's an earlier Tzeisak Echavim or later Tzeisak Echavim, but the bottom line is there's still Ur. And Lahalacha, this is brought in Shulchan Aruch Harav, in Hilchos B'dikas Chametz Siman Tov Lamed Aleph, that B'dikas Chametz has to be by Tzeisak Echavim, the first moments of Tzeisak Echavim when there's still Ur, and from there, the Mishnah Brura brings it, Shulchan Aruch Harav brings it, and then Mishnah Brura brings it as well, in Siman Tov Lamed Aleph, Lahalacha went to do B'dikas Chametz. That's the Chiddush of the Raiva there, why it says the word Ur, and the Raiva tainas that wherever it says Ur, in Mishnayos or Braisos, it's always for the same reason. It's always for the same reason. Meaning, take Hamapalas. She has a miscarriage, right? Early Yom Shmainim Ve'echad. What's his point? His point is that even, Beis Hillel says you're chayiv in a new carbon. Why are you chayiv in a new carbon? Because it's already the night. What happens if the miscarriage is a minute after Tzeisak Echavim? You could think, So Beis Hillel says you're still chayiv in a carbon. That's the chiddush of Ur. The same is true with Ur of Yom Kippur, that the vidui should be in the beginning of the night. Why? Because the whole day of Yom Kippur should be already after tshuva. So Ur Yom Kippur is trying to tell you, don't wait to do the vidui of Yom Kippur later at night. It should be the beginning of the night. The same is true by the carbon shlamim. You say that you're not allowed to eat the carbon shlamim after day 2. What about if it's mamash a minute after day 2, it's still a little light outside, so you could think you can eat the carbon shlamim. So he says, no, even when it's light, still not. So the Raiva says, wherever it says it's not stam, it says because it's a good word. Plenty of places it says laila. But it says also. In addition to Lishna Ma'alya, there's also the reason Lahalacha, the Gemarah doesn't say it, Lahalacha, they have to do B'dikas Chametz by and that's why you do. That's why it says that's Shittas Harayvid in this sugya. I just want to add here that there's another beautiful word that's brought in Svarim of Chassidus on this Gemarah. What the Gemarah means, Lishna Ma'al Yehuda Nakat. Chayre, it says in so many places, Laila. Why did they choose here the word oir? And as like you asked, we see that it comes with a price. A sheinena tahira doesn't come with a price. It's just a price of space. Here it comes with a price of confusion. A sheinena tahira is not confusing. It's not kitzer. It's not concise and sharp, but it's not confusing. Here it comes with a price of confusion. The answer is because, as we know, b'dikas chametz is not just a physical process. It's also a spiritual process. Is the b'dika of the chametz in your house, and then there's the b'dika of the chametz in your heart, the chametz in your soul, the ego, the impurity, the filth, the arrogance, the inflated ego, all of inyanim of tumas mitzrayim that exist in a person, those things that enslave you, that won't allow you to go into liberation. That's the b'dikas chametz, where a person has to search his mind and his heart to be able to get rid of that chametz. Very often people think that the way to do b'dikas chametz is with darkness. So the Mishnah says, whenever you be by the chametz, the yisoid always has to be lichtigkeit. If you don't recognize your light, if you don't recognize your potential, if you don't recognize your beauty, if you don't recognize your positivity, the b'dikas chametz is not going to be successful. If you want to do b'dikas chametz, you got to do b'dikas chametz. But b'dikas chametz always has to be with the yisoid of seeing how much light there is in you. If you look at yourself and you say, I'm garbage, I'm useless, I'm evil, I'm impure, I'm horrible, I'm a doormat, I'm a shmata, I'm a nerd, I'm a loser, I'm a lo yutzlachnik, and all the nice terms that people say about themselves consciously or unconsciously, that's not a way to get rid of chametz. It strengthens the chametz. There always has to be with the yisoid of oir, with lichtigkeit. When you want to help yourself or help somebody else get rid of the chametz, you have to be able to emphasize first and foremost, there's so much light in you. There's infinite light in you. And because there's so much light in you, that light should be the foundation and the guidance to be able to get rid of the chametz. I saw once in a sefer, Mekar Baruch, he brings for Shabbos Agadol, that there's two types of tshuva. There's tshuva with fear, tshuva me'yira, and tshuva me'ava, tshuva out of love. The Mishnah says in Yuma, the Gemarah says in Yuma Daf Pevav, that when you do tshuva out of fear, yira, zdoines nasu loikish gagas. So your sins become like mistakes, and Hashem forgives them. When you do tshuva out of love, zdoines nasu loikish zachias. Then the sins become like mitzvahs. The tshuva of love transforms the sins into mitzvahs. So he says Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is tshuva out of yira, it's tshuva out of awe. It's a man of yira. Indeed, what do we do Rosh Hashanah? We go to tashlich. What's tashlich? You throw away your sins. When it comes to Chodesh Nisan, what do we do before Pesach? Mayim Shalanu. What's Mayim Shalanu? Mayim Shalanu, you go to the well of water and you draw the water. Why are you going to the water to draw the water in order to bake matzah? So Alpinister, you're going back to reclaim your sins that you threw out last Rosh Hashanah. Why are you going back to reclaim them? Because Nisan is the avodah of Tshuva Me'ava. Tshuva out of love. Tshuva out of love, you don't get rid of your sins, you transform them. Every mistake becomes a springboard for awareness. Like we spoke before, the confusion becomes part of discovery. Every setback, every failure is a springboard for awareness. So you got to go bring it back. But Mela the avodah of b'dikas chametz is oir larba, so it's tshuva me'ava. It's transforming it into light, not looking at yourself and saying I'm dark. To be able to look at the darkness and to be able to transform it into oir larba, into light. That's why he says dafka oir, because the yisoid of b'dikas chametz is always by identifying the oir in a person. So that's one of the lessons here in the whole Gemarah. Lishna ma'al yodenakat. You have to be by the chametz, but always to see the positivity, to see that underlying all your chametz is a chelik eloka mimal mamish that remains unscathed, uncontaminated, untarnished, and completely pure and wholesome. I should just add, the Koshnitzer Magid has a sefer called Avodas Yisrael, and I saw an Erev Pesach or Pesach. He writes there on this Mishnah, Or larbas or baitkinas a chametz loiraner kol mokim shein machnisim by chametz ein tzarich b'dika. A place where you don't bring in chametz, you have to do b'dika. He says most people you'll see they do b'dikas chametz on other people's lives. They're experts on other people's chametz. Their wife, their children, their brother-in-law, the shved, the shviga, the chava, the shochet, the rabbi, on everybody else. Says, so the Mishnah says, kol mokim shein machnisim by chametz ein tzarich b'dika. You brought in the chametz to his life. No, you be boydek chametz where you bring in chametz. Let everybody be boydek chametz where they bring in chametz. I never brought in chametz to your life. Don't be boydek over this. Not your job. There's places where you did bring in chametz. Over there you should be boydek. There's a vision at Samaisa, the Avos Yisrael, a vision at Chusa Yagan Aleina. He finished B'dikas chametz. After he finished B'dikas chametz, he had a close chassid. His name was Reb Mordechai Chana. And he turns to him and he opens up his shirt and he says, Reb Chana, yet zay boidik the chametz in mine hearts. Now Dubdik, he was helping the Rebbe Dubdikas chametz, the vision the Avos Dubdikas chametz. He says, yet zay boidik chametz in mine hearts. He says, Rebbe, kol mokim sha'ayim achnisim by chametz, ein tzarech dike. On the spot. Chassidish response. A place where you don't bring in chametz, you don't need the bdik. Okay, so therefore, that's one of the remazim in the idea of the oil arbasar. Always with light. If there's no light, the b'dikas chametz is going to be ineffective. I just want to add one thing. The Chidush Harim writes in Parshas Veschanan. In Parshas Veschanan, he says, he brings this to the Mishnah and the Gemarah, and he says as follows: that Avram Avinu, the Medrash says that Avram Avinu, for a while, he decided that the sun. He was trying to figure out who the God is. What's the source of creation? So when he saw the sun, you remember the story from Cheder, when he saw the sun, he decided the sun is Hashem. And then came night, came sunset. And he realized that the sun can't be God because it changes. Now it's gone, it's going to come back. So he realized that you can't attribute to the sun the power of Hashem. So the Chidush Harim says like this: if the sun would have remained in position constantly, Avram Avinu would have lived in darkness because he would have thought that the sun is God. What allowed him to perceive the truth? The fact that the sun set. So he said it's the Laila that created Oir. If there wouldn't have been Laila, he would have remained in Chayshach his whole life. The sun would have become an Avodah Zarah. And the source of light would have become the greatest source of darkness. He says, now that you see that the sun is a manifestation of Hashem, just the koyach of Hashem, it's not that the sun itself is to be worshipped, the sun can actually become a source of light. Yotze ha'ma'oiris, it could be a moir because of Laila. And he says, that's why the Mishnah says, Oilar ba'asar baitkinas achametz, that the Laila is what creates Oir. It's the darkness that sometimes sets the stage to be able to see the light. And just like it's in every person's life, sometimes when the sun sets, you can get in touch with a much, much deeper light. And it would also make sense why it's Pesach. Pesach was Yitzias Mitzrayim, which is connected to Avram Avinu. Pesach is Avram Shavuos is Avram said Lushi Vasi Ugus. It says that the Ma'archim came to Avram Avinu. He celebrated Pesach. The Gemarah says Avram is Rosh L'Geirim, Rosh L'Ma'aminim. He was the one who took the world out of Avodah Zarah, which the Jews had to come out of Mitzrayim. They were shakua in Avodah Zarah as well. So, the celebration of Pesach begins with this union of Oir, which Avram Avinu accomplished and realized only through Laila. Azay zog the Heilige Chidush Harim in Parshas V'Eschanan. On the pasuk Hashemesh v'Yareach Asher Cholak Oisam L'Chol Ha'amim, it says for some people the sun and the moon are only physical light, but they represent spiritual darkness because they attribute divinity to them. And only when they represent who they really are do they become sources of real light, physical light, and spiritual light. Al Kol Panim, that's how the Gemarah explains. It's all merumas, of course, in the words Lishna Ma'al Yehuda Nakat. When you're dealing with Dikas Chametz, Daf Menutzin, Eidele L'Shoinus, which I think also means practically, sometimes you want to talk to yourself or to somebody else about their Chametz. Don't use Chametz language. Use positive language, positive reinforcement. Use bright language. Lishna Ma'alya. Bring out the positivity. People don't realize this. They want to give mussar to themselves or to people, so they tell you, you're a shtick darkness, you're a shtick tineth, you're a shtick night, you're a shtick tumah. No, that's not how you speak. You have to be able to always speak about oir. Bring out, help a person see the lichtigkeit. Lishna Ma'al Yehuda Nakat. And if not, if you talk about their absence, like the Rambam says they're headed, then they'll just become more absent. It doesn't help. It's much more effective when you could try it out. Come to somebody and tell them, your mamish a shtik choshech and laila, you're full. I see you. I see darkness. Or you could come to a person and say the same thing, but just say, I see so much light in you, and then go on with the chametz, and you'll see a shinui min hakatza lakatza. Try it with your children, try it with anybody you want, and come back and tell me the results. If I'm wrong, I'll give you your money back. Okay. Da ein bisschen Zeit. Okay. Sagt die Gemarah weiter. Rav Papa says, Teisha. So Reb Chalar, now you understand the blot and a half Gemarah. What it is, night, day, dark, night. So this does a Parshas. Every pasuk is nach haraya and nach havort. How you get to oil. Rav Papa says Teisha. Rabbi Shua ben Levi said the Torah deviates with 8 letters, and I'm telling you the Torah will deviate even with 9 letters. Shenemar, the pasuk says, this is a pasuk in Dvarim, Perek, Chav Gimel, pasuk Yud Aleph. Zok the pasuk, I'm going to read the whole pasuk, just to give it context. This is going to be a very important pasuk in this sugya. Parshas Kiseitze. Ki yiyeh b'cha'ish asher lo yiyeh tahir mikrei laila. There's going to be a person who's not going to be tahir. Of course, you could have said Ki yiyeh b'cha'ish tameh. You said Ki yiyeh b'cha'ish asher lo yiyeh tahir. Who's not going to be tahir. Mikrei laila, for example, at night, he has a mikra, he emits seed, and he becomes tameh. V'yatzel mechutz la'machana. So he should go out b'chutz la'machana, meaning he cannot go into the Beis Hamikdash, he cannot be in machana shchina, he has to remain outside. Lo yavel teicha machana. He goes to the mikveh. Before the night, he goes to the mikveh. Uchavay hashemesh. Once night comes, you're good to go. This is tumas that are only one day. A person wakes up and they see that there's a tumah there, a balkari, etc., mikrei loyla, they emitted seed. So you go to the mikveh, and at night you are good. You can go into the Beis Hamikdash, alles is good. So what's the lashon? Ki yiyeh b'cha'ish asher lo yiyeh toyer mikrei loyla. Zok Rashi, asher lo yiyeh toyer, have a leila michtav ish tameh. Have a leila michtav ish tameh. You could have said ish tameh. Instead, what do you give me? Asher lo yiyeh toyer. How many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Tahir without we're doing Tahir now without a vav. 12. Instead, you give me 12. You could have given me 3. So in other words, you're writing an extra 9 letters. Asher lo yiyeh tahir, when it could have said one word tameh. It's extra 9, not only extra 8, extra 9 letters. Vaita zog the Gemarah. Ravina Amar Eser. Ravina says 10. Vav the Tahir. Tahir is spelled with a Vav. So Rashi. V'chinami mashvis l'Tahir chaser Vav. Even if Tahir would be without a Vav, Ike yikum teisha. You still deviated 9. Sharesh teim esre yesh. There are 12 letters. V'tomei ein el shalosh. Ravina says Vav the Tahir the halay chaseru. Even if it would have been chaser, it would have been 9. But now it's not chaser. It's 10. You have to understand. You need Rav Papa, and then you have Ravina didn't. What's the machlokes? Is it a machlokes? Rav Papa says 9. Why? Because even if it would be missing a vav, it would still be 9. Comes Ravina and says, but it's not missing a vav, so it's 10. What Rav Papa holds? What's the mahalach here? Rashi doesn't say Rav Papa in his Sefer Torah, it said without a vav. Rav Papa is saying that even without a vav, you still have 9. Says Ravina, but it's with a vav, so you have 10. Papa could have said that. Just like I counted it, if Papa couldn't count it, if Papa also counted it. If Papa Dafka has to look, taking out the vav. In other words, even though it says a vav, if Papa is saying you also have to look at it as potentially without a vav, and it would still be an ikum of 9. Ravina said, Lepoil, it has a vav. That was verstehen, the two opinions.
How about the space between words?
Space. Okay. So the hair. Mukav Gvil. We're talking here the extra oisius, the extra letters. Rabbi Yaakov Omar, Sheishesre. Rabbi Yaakov says 16. 16. Not 9, not 10, not 8, 16. Shenemar. Pasuk says, let's remember the story. This is the story of David HaMelech, who was escaping the wrath of his father-in-law Shaul. And Yonasan told him, Mocher Chodesh, when Ifkada Ki Pokim, which tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh. Shaul HaMelech would have a Suda, a big meal, and David won't be there. And Shaul is probably going to ask where you are, and then I'll figure out what his relationship with you is. Unfortunately, Yonasan discovers that Shaul wants to kill David, and he goes and he warns him, and David goes into exile. That's the story. It's the Haftarah that we do Erev Rosh Chodesh. So the Pasuk says, I'll read the whole Pasuk, Shmuel Aleph Perek Chav, V'loi diber shol mu'uma b'yoyim ahu. If you have many Gemarahs on the right, you have the Psukim. I don't know if you have it, you can take a look on the right or on the left. It says Torah Ur HaShalom, and you have the Psukim, the newer prints of Gemarah. You see, V'loi diber shol mu'uma b'yoyim ahu. Shol didn't say anything the first day of Rosh Chodesh. Ki Amar, because he said, Mikrahu. It's a coincidence. Bilti Tahir. David HaMelech is not Tahir. Ki Loi Tahir. David HaMelech had a tumah that day, and therefore he didn't come to the Sudas Rosh Chodesh. It's not a big deal. The second day when he didn't show up, Shaul HaMelech already became alarmed. Where is David? It could have said, V'lo diber shol mun b'yemahu ki amar mikrahu tamehu. Instead it says, Bilti Toir hu ki loy toir. How many extra letters do you have here? So he says, Rabbi Yaakov says, 16. Ki amar mikrahu bilti toir hu ki loy toir. Zok Rashi, ki amar mikra tamehu. He could have said, Ki amar mikra. It's a coincidence. Tamehu lichtev v'lishtek v'yeshkan ikum yudvav aisis. Yudvav. 16. It's a mistake. Yudvav. It says Sheish Esre. Yudvav Isis, 16 Isis. What's the 16? Let's see. Right, let's see. Bilti Tahir, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, right? You could have said the word Tameh, which is 3 letters. You would have still used the word who, would be good, right? Kiyamar mikrahu Tameh, he's Tameh, and instead it says Bilti Tahir hu Kiloi Tahir. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So mainly you deviated 16 letters. So we have 4 shittas. Rishon ben Levi says 8. Rav Papa says, from Minabema Sheinan Tahira, Rav Papa says 9. From the person who becomes Tameh, Kiyeh b'cha'ish ashelo yiyeh Tahir mikra laila. Ravina says 10 because Tahir says with a vav. And finally, Rabbi Acha by Yaakov says 16 from Nevi'im, from Shmuel, where it says, Ki amar mikruhu bilti Tahir hu ki loy Tahir. Okay, we'll be mafsek here.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.